to recognize, interpret spoken or verbal language to satisfy a need. In other words, listening is hearing with understanding. Okay, so hearing, no understanding. You can just hear a sound. But in listening, you are understanding, or you have an understanding with the message that was conveyed to you. Okay, yun ang listening. If you understand the message, that means you listen. But if you don't, it means you are hearing. Okay, you're just hearing the sound. You're just hearing what I am saying, but you are not listening. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, let's go with goal. Goal of listening. What's the goal? The very main goal, ano ba yan? Okay, again. The very main goal of listening is to get what the speaker has to say about a subject. So that's your goal, why you are listening. However, listening should not just be focused on the content. The content is what I am saying, what I am sharing with you. That's the content. Listening must also be about the structure or organization of the topic. Okay, so that is the basic goal why you are listening. Okay, so here, this is what I'm talking about a while ago. We are going to discuss more the difference between hearing and listening. Maybe you never realize you are just hearing, you are not listening. And then you will put the blame to the teachers that you did not learn to this subject or to this teacher. And you just never realize na hindi ka pala talaga nakikinig. Nasa iyo pala yung mali. Okay? So let's see what are the difference between the two. Hearing. Hearing is a natural process, psychological, of receiving oral and visual stimuli. Meaning, hearing, this is the natural one. Okay? Ito yung natural sensory or national sense that we acquire. Hindi listening. Okay? Hearing yun. Yun yung natural na natin na natatanggap. Okay? Next one. Hearing is the passive phase of speech reception. Another, good hearing is needed for effective listening. If you have clear hearing, there are greater chance that you will understand more the message that was conveyed to you. If you are good at hearing, that will help you in good listening. But it doesn't mean that when you are good at hearing, you are good at listening. That's difference. Ayan nga yung last. Good hearing is not synonymous to good listening. Okay? It doesn't mean that you are good, you have clear hearing, you are good at listening. Okay? Because these two are different from each other. Okay? Let's now go with listening. Listening is more than hearing. It is a skill that needs to be developed. Okay, it's like the reading skill, the speaking skill, the writing skill. You should also develop this type of fundamental skills in linguistic, the listening skill. Why? Because listening skill is an effective way for you to understand whatever message was conveyed to you. Okay, so I just want to share to you the moment I discovered or developed my listening skill. When I was high school until college, maybe second year, I think based on my experience, I did not develop my listening skill in those years from high school until second year college. Okay, why did or when was or why or how did I know that I developed my listening skill? Because the moment I found out that I am already listening well to my teacher is when I understand and absorb all the things that my teacher is saying and teaching. Okay, so when I was third year, I developed my listening skill because every time my teacher is teaching, I already absorb whatever she is talking and teaching, and I understand. And because of that, even though we have surprise quizzes, exams, okay, I still pass the exam even without studying because I listen. I listen with understanding. Okay, that's the importance for you to develop your listening skill. Okay, next, listening is the active phase of speech reception. Listening is a sub-process of communication that involves not only hearing. Why? Because in listening, it part of it also is your background knowledge or your past experiences. The reason why you can understand well whatever you are listening is because also of your past experiences and background knowledge, right? Another last one, listening constitutes understanding and remembering. Okay? If you listen with understanding, there's a greater chance that you can remember easily whatever is taught to you. Okay? So also, based on my experience, since I developed my listening skill, every time our teacher have dictation, she's dictating some of the important notes in our lesson. So whenever she is dictating, even though she mentioned long sentences, I remember it. Because if you listen with understanding, the retention of the knowledge is longer compared with memorization. Okay? If you just memorize and you do not listen or you did not listen well to your teacher and just merely memorize whatever is in your book or on your modules, the retention of the knowledge is shorter compared when you listen with understanding. Yung retention of knowledge, dadalhin mo yan until you grow up, until your future experiences. Okay? That's the essence of listening. Okay? Again, yung listening, you listen with understanding, with comprehension. Okay? So that's the difference. I hope you know when is the time you are hearing and when is the time you are listening. Okay? So I hope you know the difference between the two. And the difference between the two is very clear to you. Okay? So next, let's move on with another one. Let's discuss the models of listening. So in our previous discussions, we discussed the models of in a communication process, right? We discussed the models of communication process. This one, the models of listening, wala siya nung mga picture, nung parang mga graphs, right? Wala siya nun. These models of listening, it is only divided into two. Okay? So we have active listening, and the second one is passive listening. Okay, those are the two models. And these two models is also divided into two. But first, let's discuss the first model of listening, which is active listening. Okay, yeah, this one, the first one, active listening. Remember, this is the first model in listening. In active listening, it requires effort and concentration on the listener's part. Okay? So you have to take note effort. Okay? Effort and concentration. Ano pa? Focus. It requires effort, concentration, and focus on the listener's part. Okay? So I hope right now you are doing active listening. Okay? You are not hearing what I'm saying, but rather you are actively listening to our discussion. Okay, I hope. So just like what I've told you, it has two types. First one, critical or persuasive listening. The second one is discriminative or instructional listening. Okay, let's identify the two types of active listening. So first, critical or persuasive listening. It is important to understand the message based on evidence or proof presented by the speaker or sender. Meaning to say, in critical or persuasive listening, you are also listening not just in the point of view of the speaker, but you are also listening with the proofs and evidences presented by the speaker. Okay? Another, critical or persuasive listening, it requires reflective thinking. Okay? What is reflective thinking? It requires you to inquire and investigate on the values, reason of things before considering them valuable all or meritorious. In other words, Reflective thinking hinders you from automatically agreeing with the speaker. Okay, so this one is important, the critical or persuasive listening, because if you apply this type of listening, you will not easily agree with what the speaker is saying because you are critically analyzing the evidences or the supporting details that can support his or her point of view, right? For example, I watched the recent episode of KMJS. Not this week ha, not this Sunday, but last Sunday. I've watched that there are many people who became victim of online business. And yung online business nun, kailangan magbibigay ka ng pera because they believe it will multiply. So, because they did not apply persuasive or critical listening, they easily agree, or they easily they easily agree. And what is the effect of that? They became a victim of fake online business. Okay? So ano pa naging effect? Naglabas sila ng maraming pera. Okay? Ang iba, thousands, ang iba, millions. Because they believe to the speaker. They easily believe to the speaker in that online business. Okay? But if they apply persuasive or critical listening, they can avoid that instances. Right? So, this type of listening um, avoids or let you avoid some of instances. For example, the fake online business. Another thing is um, fake news when you are watching on television or radio. Okay, so this type of listening, just like what was mentioned a while ago, it prevents you from automatically agreeing with the speaker, most especially right now that we are communicating through online, right? Most of us communicate through online, and it's hard for us to consider if what the speaker is saying is true or not, because we cannot really see their facial expressions, their body language if we are talking through chat or text, right? So if ever you encounter someone is inviting you to this activity, to join this online business, I hope you apply persuasive listening. Okay, this prevent you from believing to someone. Okay, you have to learn how to analyze and or critically analyze the evidences or the proofs of what he or she is saying. Okay, that is the first type of active listening. Next one, second. Okay, wait lang ah. Okay, this is the second one. Ayan. Okay, second one is discriminative or instructional listening. Okay, so this is listening in order for you to derive information, facts, ideas, and principles. Examples of discriminative or instructional listening is when you are listening to your teacher while having discussion. Could be meetings, could be conferences. Okay, the goal of instructional or discriminative listening is for you to get knowledge, to get ideas, to get the principles, to get facts or ideas regarding or towards the speaker. Okay, so other I mean to say other explanations also for this type of listening is you have to be active when you are doing this type of listening. Why? Because there are cases that, for example, in our case, the teacher will have follow-up questions. So you have to be active to answer that question. When regarding naman sa mga meetings, conferences, there are times there are some tasks that you need to do, activities that you need to do, right? So you have to be active in terms of receiving the instructions from the speaker. Okay, so that is discriminative or instructional listening. And those are the two types of active listening. We have the first one, critical or persuasive listening. The second one is discriminative or instructional listening. Okay, so tatandaan. Next one, second model of listening is passive listening. Okay, so the first one is active listening. The second one is passive listening. Passive listening usually happens when you do something else while you are listening. Okay, so if you are doing something else right now, aside from listening, that means you are doing passive listening. I hope none of you is doing this. I hope none of you is using their cell phone while they are listening. I hope none of you are watching TV while listening, okay? Because you are multitasking. You are doing passive listening. Simultaneously listening to two sounds divide your attention, which leads to superficial or nonchalant listening. Okay? So if you do passive listening, meaning to say you're focusing on the two. Okay? You are not really focusing on listening kasi divided yung attention mo. Okay? If you can notice, if you are doing something while listening, di ba, you can understand some of the speaker or some of the messages of the speaker, right? Because your attention is divided. And when it comes to listening, if you really want to gain knowledge and learn from what the speaker is saying, you have to be focused. Okay, and you have to absorb all the things that your teacher is teaching you or the speaker is conveying to you. Okay, so that is passive listening. It has two types as well. What are those? The first one is appreciative listening or emotional. Next is emphatic or therapeutic listening. Okay, so let's have the emphatic first or therapeutic listening. Emphatic or therapeutic listening, take note, therapeutic. Diba usually when we hear therapeutic, para siyang in Tagalog, nakakagaling, nakakahil, right? So what is this type of listening? This kind of listening is something that you do to relieve yourself from anxiety and tension. Okay, so if you are listening because you just want to at least lessen your problems, your stress, your anxiety or tension, that means you are doing therapeutic listening. Okay, so there are students that they like listening to music para mas malesen yung stress nila regarding homeworks or activities, right? So that is therapeutic. You listen as an output of pent up emotions. Okay, so that is emphatic or therapeutic. Second, appreciative listening or emotional. What is this type of listening? This is you listen for pleasure, entertainment, and enjoyment. Okay? Kung sa latter one, in discriminative, in emphatic or therapeutic listening, you listen to relieve your anxiety, tension, or problem or stress. Here, you listen for pleasure, for entertainment. Okay? So the moment you find happiness and enjoyment in listening to a particular sound, that you do it over and over and over again, repeatedly, in an engaged manner, that is already appreciative listening. Based from the word appreciative, meaning you already appreciate you already appreciate listening, right? So for example, you have a favorite song or favorite music, and you always listen to that music, and you find happiness in that song. Okay, and what is the type of listening? It means it's appreciative listening or emotional. Okay, it means it somehow touches your emotional aspect. Okay, if you find pleasure and entertainment and enjoyment in listening, it's appreciative listening or emotional listening. Okay, So, tatandaan yung dalawang types of passive listening. Okay, so first one, emphatic or therapeutic listening. This one is appreciative listening or emotional. Okay, so what are the two models? If you will be asked, what are the two models of what are the two models of listening? These are the active listening and passive listening. Okay? So, yung active listening, meron ulit siyang two types. Ganon din ang passive listening. Okay? So, if someone will ask, what type of listening is appreciative listening? What type of model? So, you will answer passive listening. Okay? So, next. Let's now move on with another topic, which is the barriers in listening. So last time, we also talked about the barriers in communication, right? Ano ba yung barriers? Barriers, ito yung mga hadlang. Okay? Hadlang sa pakikinig. Sa communication, hadlang. Sa pakikipag-usap sa isang tao or pakikipag-communicate sa audience. Okay? So, ito yung mga hadlang, barriers. Okay? So, what is the first barrier? Okay, the first barrier is noise. Okay, this is also a barrier in communication process. And in listening, it's still a barrier. Okay, noise. This is any kind of sensory stimuli that affects the transmission of messages. Okay, so it hinders you from listening well. Okay, that is noise. And noise, it is divided into two as well. Okay, so we have external noise and internal noise. Later, I'll show you some examples of external noise and internal noise. Let's define first what is external noise. Diba when we say external, it means outside, right? So what is external noise? These are the kinds of noise that come from that came from physical objects such as the radio, roosters outside your house. So here we have roosters, we have chickens. Maybe you can hear them. So that's an external noise. Temperature of the room, uncomfortable chair, and taste of food, and etc. Maybe you will ask, Ma'am, why temperature of the room is in external noise? You cannot hear any noise naman in temperature of the room. So why it's included in external noise? It is included in external noise because it's still a barrier in listening, right? And it is external. It is not internal. Okay? A temperature of the room is a barrier in listening. Why? Because if it's too hot, it you cannot focus while listening. Ganun din if it's too cold, right? So that's why it's an external noise. Okay? When we say external noise, these are not just only the noises that you can hear. These are the external factors that hinders you from listening well. Okay? Another is uncomfortable chair or uncomfortable position. If you feel uncomfortable, that could also be an external factor, okay? And many more. So any barriers or any factors from external noises or from external, that is considered as external noise, okay? What is the difference between external and internal? From the word internal, di ba? Inside. Okay? Pero pag sinabi natin internal, hindi siya yung sa loob ng bahay. Okay? Hindi siya yung sa loob ng isang lugar. Okay? When we say internal noise, these are emotional or mental distractions that interfere with your attention while listening. Okay? So these are the thoughts that are running inside your brain or inside your mind while listening. That is not related with our topic. For example, yung meron tayong kasabihan, you are physically present but you are mentally absent. Okay? Bakit ka mentally absent? Kasi meron kang internal noises that are running inside your mind. And that prevents you from focusing in listening to the speaker or to whoever you are speaking with. Okay? So, yun yung mga thoughts that are running inside your mind. It could be about the speaker, ano yung physical appearance ng speaker. It could be you are contradicting whatever the speaker is saying. Okay? So, yun yung mga thoughts. Okay? Again, these are external and internal noise. Another, this is the second barrier. First barrier is noise, ha? First barrier is noise. It has two types, external and internal. What is the second barrier? Understanding yourself. When we say understanding yourself, these are preconceived notions about yourself. How you feel about the speaker and the topic, and it's a kind of selective hearing. What do we mean by understanding yourself? It means to say that there are times you um, contradict whatever the speaker is saying, right? Or for example, you have different beliefs towards what the speaker is saying. Okay, so that could also be a factor in understanding yourself. You have to understand that not all the speaker who are talking, who are sharing something, are perfect. Okay? Wait lang ha. And understanding yourself, it means to say that you have to understand that not all the speakers who are speaking in front of you, they are perfect. They're still humans. They still commit mistakes. Okay? Aside from that, there are factors wherein you feel that you know much better compared to the speaker. I mean, parang when we say understanding yourself, it's like mas alam mo yung sinasabi ng speaker more than sa speaker. Okay? And anong effect nun while listening? If you feel that you know more compared to the speaker, the tendencies of that is that you are going to contradict whatever he or she is saying. Okay? Because you believe that you are smarter, you are greater compared to what the speaker is saying or sharing. Okay? That's understanding yourself. Next one, if we have understanding yourself, we have understanding others. Okay? Understanding others, these are about the preconceived notions or beliefs about others. Okay? For example, you heard say your teacher. For example, you heard that your teacher is not good in teaching, your teacher is not good at explaining. Okay? So that's a factor also that hinders you from focusing and listening well to your teacher or to the speaker, right? Yun yung mga negative thoughts mo or negative beliefs towards the speaker. Okay? So just like what I mentioned a while ago, you have to understand that not all speakers are perfect. Okay? All of them or most of us, we also have mistakes while we are speaking. Okay? So that is understanding others. Another, you judge the speaker according to the voice, quality, gestures, appearance, or social standing. Okay? So there are times that we judge the speaker based on physical appearance, right? Clothing, ano ba yung itsura niya, right? And it prevents you from listening well. So as much as possible, if you are the speaker in a communication, especially in public speaking or you're a teacher, you have to at least look presentable so that the audience can prevent some distractions while they are listening from you. Okay. Another is gestures. When we say gestures, these are the body language that the speaker is doing while discussing or while speaking. Right? If mas maraming, ano ba tawag doon? Body language, mas marami siyang, if the speaker is speaking like this, di ba, somehow nadidistract tayo, right? And other body language that can distract us. Social standing is, for example, you will listen more if the speaker is powerful, for example, mayor or politicians, right? or teachers, I hope so, that if a speaker in a communication is powerful and authoritative, you are more or you will focus more on listening, right? Compared to those who are just normal or typical persons, right? For example, as sa isang school, di ba meron tayong mga student teachers, right? So as you can notice, the students listen more to the teacher itself rather than to the student teacher, because for them, the social standing of teacher is greater than the student teacher. Okay, so yun yung example. Okay, next one. So we have three barriers. Yan, sorry. So we have three barriers. First one is noise. Second one is understanding yourself. Third one is understanding others. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. These are examples of extrinsic noise and intrinsic noise, external or internal noises. Okay, let's have the first one. Extrinsic muna tayo. Extrinsic, hot or cold room. This is the temperature of the room. Okay? If the room is too hot or too cold, it prevents you from focusing more in listening, right? Next, noisy neighbors. Pag maingay ang kapitbahay, 'di ba? If you can experience that, that is an extrinsic noise and that's a barrier in listening. If there are noises, especially your neighbors, if they are noisy, of course, it prevents you from focusing more, right? Because you are very distracted with the noises that you can hear. Okay? Especially if your house is dikit-dikit. Okay? Next, uncomfortable chair or uncomfortable position. Next, jeeps and buses outside windows, especially if your house is located near a street or near a road or near a pathways where some vehicles are passing by. Okay, those are extrinsic noise. Classmate fidgeting his pen. So, pag sinabi natin fidgeting, like this. For example, this is the pen, right? So, yung fidgeting yung nagaganto sa table. Okay? Yung ginaganto niya sa table. So, yun yung fidgeting. And it's it's an extrinsic noise as well. Okay? Next, old air conditioner. So, usually if the air conditioner is old, it's either noisy or the temperature that it gives is not that cold. Okay? Next one, poor motivation of speaker. That's also a factor while listening. If the motivation of the speaker is not good, there's a tendency that his or her audience will be bored. Okay, next, speaker style and amount of information transmitted. But there are times, just like what I've told you in our first discussion, there are times that even though the speaker has so much information to give you, still it depends on you. It depends on your listening capability or on your listening skill, because there are times nga na students will complain, ma'am, I don't learn you will share this with your classmates or with some of your teachers that, ma'am, I did not learn from this teacher, wala po akong natutunan dito. But then you should also look at yourself. Maybe you are not listening well, you are not listening comprehensively, you are not actively listening during discussion. And that's the reason why you did not learn from your teacher or from that teacher. Okay? So, these are the factors that you should consider while you are attending virtual meetings. Okay? Next, intrinsic noise. Intrinsic noise, just like what I've told you, these are the inside noises, not really inside the house or inside a place. This intrinsic noise, these are the noises that even though you cannot hear any sounds, it still prevents you from listening. Okay? That is intrinsic noise. First one, feeling of pain or hunger. Okay? Syempre, if you are not feeling good, okay? Pag may masakit sa inyo, masakit ang tiyan, masakit ang ulo, or masakit ang kung ano man, 'di ba? So that prevents you from listening well, as well as hunger, pag gutom. Syempre, if you are hungry, your mind is thinking about foods, right? And if your mind is thinking about food, wala na. Wala na yung focus mo sa listening. Okay? You're just hearing. You're not listening. Okay? Next, family problem. This is a big barrier or let's say greatest barrier in listening. Okay, why? Because you are thinking about your family, the problem of your family. And family is a great, has a great impact or effect towards your mental health, right? If you have family problem, that hinders you from focusing while listening, right? So if you are facing now, right now, family problem, I hope that you know how to separate this problem in terms of your studies. But then again, wala naman ako sa kalagayan nyo, and I cannot say that it's easier to handle family problem and studies both, right? But then I hope you find ways para um you avoid these barriers and focus more while you are attending classes. Okay? Next one, financial problem. So financial problem, when I am going to put this in the situations of students, financial problem in terms of loads. For example, you are listening right now and then mamaya papasok sa isip mo, paano kaya tomorrow? Ano na naman kayang panload ko? Wala na naman pera si mama or si papa. Paano na naman kaya ako a-attend ng klase? Or kaya naman nasira yung cellphone nyo or nasira yung laptop. Okay? So that's also a barrier. Then, also, worst case, pag financial problem, of course, pag wala kang makain, right? So that's also a barrier in listening. Next, fear of teacher. Pagtakot sa teacher. Okay? So I think right now, uh, you are not afraid with teachers because right now you're having online classes. But I hope even though you are not afraid, there's a respect still. Okay? Because if you have respect to the teacher, you will attend class and you will focus on what he or she is saying. Okay? You will value the time of the teacher as well as your time. Okay? And fear of teacher is a factor in intrinsic noise. Because if you are afraid of the teacher, you will think more of what are the ways on how or paano ba hindi magagalit si teacher. Yun yung focus mo. So, dapat ang goal mo lang is makinig. Dapat mapakita mo sa kanya na nakikinig ka. Kasi pag hindi, magagalit siya. Right? So, that's why it's an intrinsic noise. Next one, sleeplessness, inaantok. Okay? I know, mahirap labanan ang antok. Okay? But, I hope you find a way para pag halimbawa nafe-feel mo na inaantok ka, dapat meron kang way para gising yung sarili mo, especially sa discussion. Okay? So, I already experienced this sleeplessness while listening, especially during our reviews in board exam because I am working and I am reviewing at the same time. It's hard for me to handle these two. I am teaching and during weekends, I am attending reviews naman. So I'm very tired. So because I'm very tired, what the result of that is I am always sleeping during reviews, especially pag mga middle na. Pag mga gitna na, I'm always sleeping. And then I will just be awake pag patapos na. My classmates will just call my name and then tell me that it's already malapit na mag-time. Okay? So, mahirap labanan ng antok. Pero, you have to find ways. Okay? Next one, constant self-focus. Pag ang focus mo more on sa sarili mo. Halimbawa, um, uh, halimbawa, when you are attending public speaking, so since you are focusing more on yourself, you will think of your position, the way you sit or the way you stand, right? So that is an intrinsic noise. Another, eagerness to talk. Okay? So if you always like to talk whenever you are communicating, even di pa tapos yung kausap mo magsalita, gusto mo na agad umimik, That is intrinsic noise. Okay? So for example, in a communication and you're very eager to talk, you are not focusing on what he or she is saying kasi mas nakafocus ka dun sa sasabihin mo. Right? So that prevents you from listening. Okay? Ayan na nga, merong mga roosters, if you can hear. Okay, next one, lack of information or knowledge of the topic. Okay, so of course, if you don't know the topic of what the speaker is talking about, hindi ka makaka-relate. And pag hindi ka makarelate at makakonect sa topic, it prevents you from listening. Lilipad na yung utak mo. Okay? And then, last one, beliefs. Ito yung mga paniniwala. If your beliefs and the beliefs of the speaker is opposite, you will contradict whatever he or she is saying. Kasi magkakaiba kayo ng paniniwala. Okay? So, that's the end of our lesson. It's 11:11, overtime 1 minute. Okay? So, anyway, only for today's section. 129 and from other sections also. Thank you for listening well. And next week is your midterms. Good luck and study well. Okay? So see you again next meeting. Goodbye.
Hi, ma'am.
Goodbye, ma'am. Thank
Bye,
you.
ma'am.
Bye.
Ma'am.